So have you been living in Seattle and you've been thinking about moving to Spokane? Well, today's your lucky day because I've got a guest, Jade Adair.
Hello.
And she is a recent transplant from Seattle to Spokane.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am coming to the Spokane area after living in Seattle for about 20 years. And I've been here for about 3 months or so, new to real estate in this area. And I'm moving back over with a partner of mine that's coming back to Spokane after being away for about a decade. So he's moving back home. And I feel like Spokane is an up-and-coming market for real estate, and thought it'd be a great place to practice.
Well, what makes you think it's up and coming?
I feel like the buildings in Spokane are pretty old, all things considered, and you can tell that there are investors and flippers that are coming into the area and making these old buildings new. Along with that, there are people that are relocating from both the Seattle area and California, and it's increasing the population of Spokane.
And how long have you been here?
About 3 months.
3 months. So what have you found out regarding home prices?
The home prices in Seattle are really expensive. The median home price is about $700,000, whereas in Spokane, maybe $300,000.
Quite a big difference, huh?
Quite a big difference.
Okay. All right. Now, one of the bigger complaints that I hear from visitors or people from other bigger cities is the relatively lack of cultural and social activities here in Spokane. How has that impacted you?
Well, for me personally, I tend to keep to myself, stay inside, so it doesn't bother me that much, but maybe for someone who likes to go out more often, go out to the bars, go out to social events, it is going to be quite a bit slower in Spokane than it is in Seattle. But if you are like me, you like to stay, to yourself or do outdoor activities, then Spokane would be a really good place for you.
So what was the last social event that you attended?
The last social event I attended would have been to see Post Malone at the Tacoma Dome. That was about a year ago.
Okay.
So for me, it's maybe a year far and few between. I wouldn't mind traveling all the way to Seattle to go to one of those events.
Okay, because we certainly don't have those big names come to Spokane.
No.
No.
I am coming from Seattle where the traffic is just terrible. In comparison, in Spokane, what can you tell me about kind of the city planning and the traffic?
That is certainly one of my favorite things about Spokane is relatively little traffic. Now, having said that, we do have a problem in terms of, at least in my opinion, some traffic management problems. For example, Division Street, which is the main thoroughfare that connects the north side to downtown Spokane. There's a lot of commuters that go back and forth through that thoroughfare. People will have to go through stoplight after stoplight after stoplight, just stop and go traffic through that main road. I lived in California more than 30 years ago, and at that time there was already the technology of synchronized lights.
Right.
And I don't know why we couldn't have that over here. Having said that, rush hour is literally anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. I'm very happy about the traffic situation.
I'd be happy to sit in traffic for only 15 minutes.
Right.
Okay. In regards to the traffic and the density in Seattle, the houses are kind of right on top of each other, right next to each other. Not a lot of room for growth in that area. Is it the same situation in Spokane?
No, most definitely not. There are lots of acreage options immediately outside the city limits, still within 30, 45 minutes, an hour at the most. And that's through light traffic. Lots of options for growth.
Okay.
Now, we have this north-south corridor, okay? And it's actually a highway. It's a major freeway that will be comparable to I-90, which goes east and west. This one would connect the north side all the way down to I-90. They've been building about that ever since I came here 25 years ago. And right now, I'd say it's probably only about halfway done, maybe a little over half. And we probably have another 10 years before it gets completed.
Okay.
So we do have some management issues that need to be addressed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Dennis, regarding the kind of civil unrest and all the social things that have been happening around the protests, what can you tell me about the protests in Spokane?
Well, that is one thing that I am happy about because we did have our protest too during probably the first or second night of the George Floyd situation. Unfortunately, there were actually two groups of people that came in. There was the peaceful protesters, and then as the night came and they were about to go home, there's a second group that came in and they started to do some naughty activities, to say the least. We actually had some looting. The mayor and the sheriff actually partnered together. They went on TV and addressed that completely and nipped it in the bud. After that first night of situation, there's never been anything else. And we've had peaceful protests from different groups of different causes, but nothing else beyond that.
Okay.
So I'm really glad that Spokane is as safe as it is.
Great.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about Spokane's educational programs or noteworthy schools?
Well, our claim to fame is Gonzaga University. A lot of it primarily stems from the basketball team, but beyond that, as an educational institution, they are actually ranked number 80 nationwide. They are only one of three law schools in the state of Washington. And then they've got a special program, a postgraduate program actually, for nurses who want to specialize in anesthesia. That particular program is actually ranked number 18 in the country. So with that, they want to expand their medical program, and they have partnered with the University of Washington in Seattle, produce more doctors that will address and service the region. The medical community in Spokane is big, and they actually service all the way up to western Montana.
Okay.
And even southern Idaho.
So speaking of doctors and nurses, what can you tell me about Spokane's medical facilities?
Between Minneapolis and Seattle is only Spokane, and there's nothing else in between. They serve the entire region from a medical standpoint. I actually had not a client, but a neighbor a couple of years ago when I was still living in Idaho. I mean, they were an older couple, and they were going to retire in the area, and he specifically said that they chose Spokane because of the medical facilities that were available. Last year, I had a client who was living in Post Falls in Idaho and decided to relocate to Washington specifically for medical care because she felt that there were more services available, at least the specialty ones in Spokane.
Okay.
Yep.
So Dennis, I'm coming from Seattle where of course there are a lot of job opportunities. There's a lot of variety regarding which jobs you have to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
In Spokane, I've heard there's a little shortage or maybe not as much opportunity for jobs in the area.
That is true. I mean, if there is one thing that is limiting the growth or potential in Spokane is actually employment opportunities. Four major employers in the area are, number one is Fairchild Air Force Base. As far as I've recently heard is that they've actually expanded their fleet because Fairchild is actually a tanker facility, you know, those airplane tankers that refuel the jets and the other planes in midair. The second largest employer is the local government, so that would be the city as well as the county. Then the third one is actually the medical industry, the healthcare. And for that matter, as a percentage of the total employment base, Spokane has a higher percentage of healthcare workers compared to the national average. And then finally, the fourth one is construction. Because of the big demand for homes, unfortunately, there is a shortage of labor. On top of that would be the rising cost of materials. So those are the four main employers in the area. The bright beacon of hope is actually Amazon. They've established a regional warehouse, and from what I understand, they employ about 1,500 workers at the facility. Rumor has it that there's another 1,500 employees that are not part of the operations, but rather they're part of corporate, but they've decided to relocate to the area. Now, what we're hoping is that the presence of Amazon would attract other businesses to say, oh, if Spokane is good enough for Amazon, well, why wouldn't it be good enough for us?
Right.
So whoever those other companies are.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had mentioned construction earlier. Speaking of construction, do you think that Spokane is going to be able to keep up with the demand?
Very good question, and it's not easy to answer. However, there's this company called D.R. Horton, which is the largest home builder in the country. They see the potential and opportunities in Spokane, so therefore they've expanded with their presence locally. They bought out a local construction company, Lexington Home, and so now they're part of the D.R. Horton family. With that, they're able to leverage the buying power of D.R. Horton, as well as the systems and the processes that they have already established. They actually have about, I'd say roughly about a dozen different development communities that they are building and developing. Whether or not they can keep up with demand, I can't, it's hard to answer that because like I said, there's a labor shortage, and then on top of that, particularly with the pandemic, the cost of labor, the cost of materials have gone up. So those are the things that are constricting the building industry.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jade, thank you for being here today. And do you have any other parting thoughts before we go?
I would say if you don't mind life in a slower paced environment, then Spokane is a really good place for you to be.
Okay.
What is your conclusion on?
Well, Jade, that's a great question to conclude our session today. Well, in my humble opinion, if you're looking for urban adventure, then Seattle is the place to go. However, if outdoor adventure is a bigger priority to you and you're looking for a laid-back lifestyle both at home and at work, then you got to check out Spokane. So if you have any more questions, just leave them in the comments below and make sure to subscribe to this channel so that you'll be informed of what else is going on. So that's it for now. We'll see you in the next video.